class, we will basically learn about Chinese symbol structure. And yeah, this is an image that shows the general parts of a Chinese building. You can see from top to ground is the roof and the bracket sets and the column and the wall and the plinth, the base, the plinth. And you can see the roof has a really large proportion, right? So mainly we will focus on the frame structural system of the Chinese buildings. So basically, it's as we say, the frame structure is that you have the skeleton, like you have the skeleton of the roof, and you place the tiles and it becomes a roof, and you have the column and the beams to support the whole structure, and then in between the roof and the main body of structure is this column, this complex bracket sets called dougong. So that's how they put together. So also in today's field trip we also see this structure, but this is a seven modular bay building. Today we visit a 5 modular bay temple. So but the principle is the same. If you remember that the three Buddha are placed in the center space, and they have a ring of like corridor or a ring of corridor that in Chinese it's called cao, and the cao also determines how many cao. It also determines how large is the building, and because it's a frame structure, it's like it's really similar with today's, like we are in a reinforced concrete building, right? In reinforced concrete structure, we have beams and columns and the roof as a structural system, and then the walls like this. It's use like non-load bearing walls, like brick walls, or use wood panels that is not load bearing. So that's quite similar with the Chinese traditional architecture, but it is really different from if you imagine a Western cathedral, it is mainly masonry structure. That is, they lay the bricks or they lay the stones and create the space. Then that's why they don't have the concept of Quarry Bay. And the Quarry Bay the Kaijian only goes with frame systems, frame structure. So you can see that this is a 7 modular bay example. So modular bay becomes a spatial unit. It's both spatial unit and also function, because you can see that each Quarry Bay is accommodates one statue of Buddha, and the exterior, the peripheral ring becomes the cao. I just talked about that. You can walk around. It's both structural and function, and it combines meet together. And this is the section of the example. You can see the difference in the span. You can see the center space is larger, and also here. You can see that creates this colonnade space in the center. Also, this is analysis of bracket sets. So it is very complicated, but you can also find certain logic or principles in the bracket sets. As you can see, this is a 2 jump bracket sets. This is called 1 jump. The more jump of the bracket sets, it means it's more complex or it's more important. And then they have this diagonal elements called ang, that serves as a counterbalance of the weight. So you have heavy weight from here, and then it is counterbalanced with the cantilever up. So this is an example of 唐单 temple 舞台佛光寺大殿. So you can see also a 3 jump of bracket sets, and also you will look closely. Some of the bracket sets rest on the column, some of them rest on the beam, so that the column bracket sets and the intercolumn bracket sets. So 2 different categories. So many in a much earlier period. So the bracket sets mainly serves as a structural rule to rest on and transport the load on top of the beams and to the ground. And then they develop these more ornamental elements that is placed in between columns to enhance the continuity of this bracket set system. Yeah. So you have to distinguish different bracket sets. One is a column bracket set, one is intercolumn bracket set. And in terms of the roof, the format of roof can determine the rank of hierarchy or the importance of the building. So in general, the hip roof is more important than the gable roof. So if you imagine this a series of buildings, you can imagine this is a house, probably a house in a village, right? This is probably a palace for an emperor. So that's give you a sense of the ranks of hierarchy. So in general, the double eave is more important, more significant than the simple eave, and the hip roof is more important than the gable roof. So you can see 2 different kinds of gable roof. One is the overhang gable roof, that is the roof is extended out and the side facade, and one is the flush gable roof that it's not extended. And in between the hip roof and gable roof, we have this hip and gable roof, and 斜山顶. That is, for half of the roof you gable, and for half of the roof you hip. That for hip roof is that each direction you are standing, you always see one slope that is one slope towards you. But for gable roof, it's just 2 directions. But the hip and gable roof is a combination of these 2. So you have slope in 4 directions, but you also emphasize the front and back, the main direction. In contrast of this hip roof and gable roof, there's a pyramidal roof that mainly appears in Chinese gardens, for example in pavilions or other kinds of types. Is that they don't have a dominant direction, they are 4-sided. Yeah. And then of course you have double eave pyramidal roof, double eave hip and gable roof, and double eave hip roof. Yeah. This one is on top of the hierarchy. And for the structural systems, there are mainly 2 kinds of structural systems. One is the post and beam system, like 抬梁式. That is, you erect 2 columns here, and you place a really big timber as a beam to create the columnist space underneath. It is also in our today's future case. So you can see this is the Buddha space, and this is where we walk through, right? So this on top of the main beam, we have smaller columns, and these smaller columns rest on the load of smaller columns rests on the main beam, and we put a secondary beam here. and then on top of the secondary beam, there's another small column, and you put the period on top. Then you can see the load transport from through the short column to the beams and to the main column. This is the post and beam system. This is an example. Although the beam is really decorative, but you can see also it serves as a short column to support a secondary beam on top of the main beam. Right. So this is called a post and beam 抬梁式 system. And the second system is the column and tie system, that is triangle. The main difference is called column beam. Firstly, you can see the columns are much denser, but basically the structural logic is that some of the short columns transport the weight directly to the ground. You imagine you add one column here and you add another column here, and then it becomes the column and tie system. By doing so, the advantage is that you don't need a large structural beam, because large wood is not easy to acquire. It's difficult to get, and you only need these smaller tie beams, in between the columns to stabilize the whole structure. But the disadvantage is also apparent that the density of the columns make the space not easy to use. So you have more columns inside of your room. So this is an example of column and tie system, 传导式. You can see, for example, the central column, the weight transport directly through the column to the ground. But also you can see also the post and beam system here is that they erect one short column on top of a main beam. So you can also say it's a combination of two structural systems. But the main point is for you to distinguish the two structural systems. So let's go to bracket sets. And said that you can see a diagram drawn by Liang Sichen that it's placed in a chronological order, from earlier Tang Dynasty to the more recent Qing Dynasty. And you can see that the most apparent distinction is that it is much larger in Tang Dynasty, in previous period, much larger. If you compare the size of the brackets with the height of the column, it really has a really large proportion. But in Qing Dynasty, it's mainly really small in comparison with the column. And then also some of the structural elements disappeared. For example, the diagonal arm that serves as a counterbalance to cantilever out. So you can see in Qing Dynasty there's only a tail of the arm, but it's only ornamental, it's decorative, and you don't see any structural elements that extended inside. But here in Tang and Song Dynasty and Liao in Tang, Liao, Song Dynasty, you can see it is really a structural system that is exposed outside. So you can see this is a really humble temple from Tang Dynasty, but you can see the size of the brackets with the column, and also this is a Liao Dynasty building. But this is I would say the most significant building in Qing Dynasty is Taihe in Forbidden City, and then you barely see the bracket sets, right? And when you look closely to the facade, you can see how small the bracket is, and how complicated. There's a large number of bracket sets, but only ornamental. So it forms like a belt. It's only a horizontal decorative belt that tells you that it is constructed in a traditional manner, but actually it no longer serves as any structural rule. But when you look back to the Tang Dynasty buildings, you can see it's clearly the structural expression of the bracket set and also you don't see any intercolumn brackets, right? It's mainly the. So I put this comparison is that for you to distinguish different. Although if you are not familiar with Chinese traditional architecture, you will think that they are basically the same, or just a roof, brackets, and a column size frame system. Right? But by this comparison, it's just for you to have an understanding that the historical transition and the change through the historical period, and also in Tang Dynasty you can see this kind of curves. It's also apparent in today's case that you can see this curve, and also the column, the height of the side column or corner columns is larger than the height of the columns inside. To give you a sense of this slightly very subtle curve, and also together with this curve, to give you a sense of to give you a expression of heaviness, to let you feel how heavy the roof is. So the roof itself, of course, it is heavy, but it's expressed in the formal in the forms and in the structures. That is the ideology of Tang Dynasty buildings. That you can almost feel that the structural system, the structural elements are reacting to the heaviness. You feel like this timber is bent by the weight, but actually it's made with this curve. It's already very static, very stable. It's made like this. But just to give you an example, but in Qing Dynasty building, you can see that it is really straightforward and rigid. So that's why many of the I would say majority of the scholars since the period of Liang Zicheng, they doesn't like the Qing Dynasty period because it's very rigid and also very decorated. But in Tang Dynasty, in the earlier period, the structural system is very I would say very honest and very structurally expressive. So that's the major difference. Although you can see the height